I'm I'm here, but I'm not here. I forgot what I got up to get. That's terrible. Not a good example. I'll remember in a minute. Move this. Okay, so I'll wait for people to get in. Oh, I know what I wanted. Okay. I need to put some lip balm on. Shuki, why are you running around after me like you need to be fed? You don't need to be fed. I promise you. Okay, guys. I'm coming. Hopefully my dog doesn't bother me all evening. You act like that and I'm going to put you outside. Okay. I've got things queued up. Let's see. While I'm sitting here, I'm going to learn how to present properly. I'm going to do some practice while I'm waiting for people to come in. I've got videos queued up and ready to go. Let's see, share screen. Yep, share screen. Screen sharing works best on a good computer. Got it. Audio, yes. Let you share audio. I might, okay. All righty. Yeah, there we go. There. And share. StreamYard. There we go. Okay. Hello. How are you? Let me see. I might change my view here a little bit. Let's test it out. There, that works good. Okay. Please chat. Don't be shy. We're gonna have a good live stream tonight. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully I have viewers. If I don't, I'll just go ahead and play it. It'll be in the queue recorded and people can watch the replay. Let's see. Okay, I need to check a setting on my computer here for a minute. I'm just going to put you outside. You're not going to like it, but you know what? When you do this, then you're good. Okay. All right, let's turn that off. Okay. Hopefully my internet is good tonight. Let me see how I'm going here. If it gets bad, I'll put it on. I'll do a, man, it shows I only have one bar. That's bad. Okay, let's do it like we did last time. I'm going to set up not tethering, but kind of like that. What do you call it? Hotspot. There we go. You stop whining right now. My dog. Okay. It doesn't show it. Doesn't show that choice. Oh, hi, Ty. How are you? We're going to have a good live stream tonight. We are going to share some testimonies, some carnivore testimonies about what low-carb carnivore can do. How are you? How's your pepper dog? Trying to set up my hotspot. Suki. Let's see. Hotspot. Personal hotspot. There we go. Allow others to join. Already got that. Just making sure that I've got good internet. Well, I'm glad. Good. Did you have a good New Year's and a good Christmas? I hope so. I need to turn my heat up. I'm gonna turn the heat up. That's so weird. It doesn't show. My iPhone should be in the list. Okay, we're gonna go for it and see if I have enough bandwidth. It only shows one tiny teeny bar, which is terrible. Terrible Wi-Fi. Why is that? So weird. I don't know why it doesn't show my iPhone. Sorry, just trying to get technical stuff out of the way. Mobile. Not right. Yesterday it just showed as. Okay, we're just gonna see if this. Good. I had a quiet New Year. Just me. And I did end up staying up till midnight, and then I ended up crocheting a little bit, so quite a bit actually. I was trying to resize gloves I'm making. Yeah, so it was very enjoyable to be, and turn my screen so I'm centered better here. So I had a good time with my family. It was really good. No, stop whining. You don't need anything. There's water out. You already ate, and you don't need a thing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let him out. Please be patient. I'm waiting for other people to come in, but we may get started without them. They can watch the replay. I'm making bone broth, and it just my Instapot just turned off. Come here. Oh, do you need to go out? Is that your deal? There, maybe you needed to go out. Okay, well, that's good for him to ask me. I thought he was just begging to beg. Begging to beg. Okay, turn up the heat. I don't know why this house is so drafty. I need to seal the doors better. Middle of winter though. Okay, and then I'm going to put it on swing. It doesn't show. I can't tell if that feature is on or not. Okay. Sorry, I didn't run yet. Anyway, okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. If people come in, that's cool. And then people can watch the replay. Let's see, which one do I want to start with? I'm going to go share some testimonies, some carnivore testimonies. So let's do this. And some of these, a lot of these actually, I haven't watched. So we are going to go ahead and do them anyway.
All right, carnivores, buckle up. Today I'm going to tell you about the Bellevue study of 1928. The original carnivore experiment that will blow your ribeye-loving mind. It involves two brave men, an all-meat diet, and some shocking truths about human health. Did you know eating only meat can make you feel better, improve your resistance to disease, and meet all your nutritional needs? Stick below your ribeye love.
Okay, guys, I need, or one guy, I need to make sure we have sound. Do we have sound? Hello? Go ahead and chat, it's fine. Hi. Yes, we're moving up in the world. I told you things were, so we do have sound. And so when I play the video, you can hear the video sound? Give me a heads up, a yay or nay. Yay or nay. Cool, good to see you, Discover Aviation. Okay, are we ready to shoot this thing out into the internet? Ready? So this is going to be a regular feature on my channel. We're going to play testimonies. So maybe we'll have, not Testimony Tuesday because I'm not always available on Tuesday. So we'll do it like, what can we do? Thursday, Testimony Thursday. It's not as catchy, but yeah, I'll think of a name for it. Anyway, okay, so let me know if you can hear because it's going into my earbud, which I like because then I know I've got sound. But let me know how we're doing here.
Loving mind. It involves two brave men, an all-meat diet, and some shocking truths about human health. Did you know eating only meat can make you feel better, improve your resistance to disease, and meet all your nutritional needs? Stick around because I'm sharing the juicy details, plus some facts even your...
Okay, I'm going to share some of my reaction. And a lot of these I have not seen, or I've only seen bits and pieces. but I know they're reliable channels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute my mic and tell me if there's any
The butcher doesn't know. But before I begin, if you've benefited from an all-meat diet, share in the comments the difference it's made in your life. Now imagine this. It's 1928, the roaring 20s, while everyone else is busy partying. Two guys, Philomer Stephenson and Carlton Anderson, are about to embark on a year-long experiment in New York's Bellevue Hospital, eating only meat and water. That's right, no kale, no bread, no coffee. It's just meat, fat, and water. And the results? Well, they didn't just survive, they thrived. Let's break it down. Stephenson was an Arctic explorer who lived with the Inuit for years, eating what they ate, mainly meat and fat. When he came back to the civilized world, no one believed his diet could possibly work. They said, you'll get scurvy, you'll die. So he teamed up with a fellow meat lover, Carlton Anderson, and they checked themselves into the Bellevue Hospital for a full year to prove the skeptics wrong. No cheating, no breaks, and doctors watched their every move. Here's what they discovered that should make every carnivore out there say, why didn't I know this sooner? Number one, you must eat fat-rich protein. Meat alone isn't enough. Fat is essential. Without it, you'll end up like those poor souls in history who ate rabbit and got rabbit starvation, aka protein poisoning. That's why every good steak deserves a healthy pat of butter, or even better, a fatty ribeye will do the trick. Number two, all nutrient needs are met. Just enjoy your dinner, no multivitamins, no green powders. These guys were getting everything they needed from meat. From vitamin C. Yes, meat has trace amounts of vitamin C. It also has B vitamins, minerals, and even fiber-like benefits for the gut without the fiber. Turns out your body doesn't need leafy greens to thrive. Number three, resistance to disease improved. Stephenson and Anderson reported fewer illnesses and better overall health. Their energy was through the roof, digestion was smooth as butter, and their immune systems improved. Let's just say they weren't catching the 1928 version of the flu. Here's the stuff most people don't know about the Bellevue study. They didn't crave carbs. After adapting, neither man wanted bread, sugar, or veggies. This wasn't willpower, it was biology. Mental clarity skyrocketed. Their focus, mood, and productivity were all vastly improved. A far cry from the post-lunch slump you get after a carb-heavy meal. Their weight stabilized naturally. No calorie counting, no macros, just eating meat until they were full. Both men maintained their ideal weight without effort. Improved digestion, no bloating, no gas, no bathroom emergencies. And contrary to popular opinion, meat is the easiest food for the human body to digest. And yes, no signs of scurvy. Despite the lack of fruits and vegetables, they didn't get scurvy. A huge slap in the face to critics of the all-meat diet. Now, as a doctor, let me address something you may be wondering. Why haven't you heard about this before? Because most doctors aren't trained in nutrition, let alone metabolic health. Our education focuses on disease management, not prevention or diet optimization. And until more doctors embrace this knowledge, you'll need to dig deeper for yourself, or just hang out with doctors like myself to learn the truth. So, what can you learn from the Bellevue study? If you're on a carnivore diet or considering it, know this. When done right, with adequate fats, an all-meat diet can provide complete nutrition, improve your resistance to disease, and make you feel better than ever. Don't just forget the fat, because it's the secret sauce, literally. Now, if this blew your mind like it did for me, hit that like button, subscribe, and share with someone who thinks eating meat is bad for you. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite cut of meat? I'm team ribeye. Until next time, eat meat, drink water, and stay healthy.
I did the experiment. So I did 90 days of carnivore, and a couple of interesting things happened. I dropped 6% body fat, meaning
Okay, that was Dr. Tony Hampton. And then this is a brand new testimony that I haven't watched any of. So that will be fun to watch. And this guy did his own N1 experiment of just trying the carnivore diet for 90 days. And so, let's see. Ready, guys? There's only one person in here, but go ahead and chat. Let me know if the sound is okay. I can up the volume on the video if needed, but I think we're good, right? Let's see. Making sure that I've got everything set right. And then I will mute my mic. But if you have questions, and I can always stop the video and make commentary, but that was interesting, wasn't it? Just a basic of carnivore, a basic overview of why carnivore, and that meat digests well and that it needs to be done by itself rather than with carbs, and you need fat. So that's a really good overview. This sounds okay? Okay. Loud enough and all of that? Cool. Okay, we're going to go on, and I will stop the video periodically, because if I don't, I will get strike or copyright. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, fair use, I guess what it's called, fair use strike, if I play too much of it at a time. So I'm going to have to stop and comment, which is fine. And then I'll also pause for questions, and I might fast forward the video. I'm playing it at slightly faster speed just so we can get through more. And like I say, this is going to be a regular feature on the channel. So kind of cool. We'll do it like once a week. We'll have carnivore testimonies, and some of them might be yours. Hey, or you can share, what's going on with your current diet and what you would like to see changed in your health. So let me mute and start again. Okay, settle in. And this is, let me look at the guy's name and stuff, is what channel? I need to make the screen smaller. Oh, my computer is being slow. Okay. Also, let me know if my internet goes wonky. I'll try to change it to hotspot, although for some reason it's not showing my hotspot. Going to other network? That isn't correct. Ugh, my computer is slow in general. That stinks. Okay, cancel that. Yeah, I don't know why it's not. Oh, maybe it's because my Bluetooth's turned off on my phone. Let me turn it back on. And I gotta make sure that I don't have anything open that might play accidentally. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, I think now that my Bluetooth is on, maybe, let's see, can I change my iPhone? Crazy, I don't see it. Anyway, it's okay. I know I set up my hotspot. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, here we go. Sorry to be slow.
a total of 6% body fat reduction during the 90 days. And I didn't even realize that I needed to lose those 6% body fat, but my body did it. So I got really lean. My abs got more defined. I lost 16 pounds in the 90 days as well. So 6% body fat, 16 pounds. Everything in my gut microbiome improved. My diversity improved. Not just that, 7 core bacteria showed up on my day 90 test that did not show up on day 1, and 5 keystone bacteria showed up on day 90 that was not there on day 1. Doing the complete
Okay, that's a really good point. It's really important that our gut biome gets healthier, not worse. And on the carnivore diet, you actually get a healthy gut biome and different gut biome that aren't there if you're too many plants in your diet, not enough meat. You really need it. You need the meat and the fat. So I always say it, eat your fat. Fat heals. Okay, here we go again.
Opposite of what most people think you need to do to improve gut health. So overall, my HRV improved, my deep sleep improved. I got more REM sleep, which is more for rapid eye movement sleep, more for memory processing, short-term memory to long-term memory. So my LDL on day 1, I believe, was around 250, which was still pretty high because I was still doing more of a keto saturated fat approach. On day 90, it went up to 350, super high. Oh my gosh. However,
when it comes to the ketogenic diet, what are the biggest mistakes you see people making that are sabotaging the results?
Well, the biggest mistake is looking at it as a diet. Although keto technically can be a diet, it's more of a metabolic process. So I think a lot of people who go into keto, Jesse, they go into it looking to lose weight. I'm going to use this as a diet to lose weight. And yes, it could help you do that for sure. But I think a lot of people don't know that it's actually a metabolic process that we're all designed to use. Ketones are simply a byproduct of burning stored fat. And there's nothing new about keto. It's just new or nuanced to some people, but it's been around for as long as humans have existed. As a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons why we exist today, because our ancestors didn't have food readily available, right? So they had to rely on their stored energy, their body fat, as a fuel source, and then they produce ketones to fuel the brain to get through those times of famine. So a big mistake is going into it thinking that it's just going to be used for a diet. And it's not going away because it's a metabolic process. Another big mistake people make is they eat the wrong fats on keto. Just because a food is keto friendly doesn't necessarily make it healthy or health friendly. So I see a lot of people who do keto and they're eating these inflammatory fats. You've done a lot of interviews on your show on this topic of seed oils. And these seed oils are all over the place. They're in about 80% of our food supply in the United States. But in the keto space, a lot of people eat them because they're keto friendly, they're fats, but they're highly unstable and arguably more inflammatory than existed. As a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons why we exist today, because our ancestors didn't have food readily available, right? So they had to rely on their stored energy, their body fat, as a fuel source, and then they produce ketones to fuel the brain to get through those times of famine. So a big mistake is going into it thinking that it's just going to be used for a diet, and it's not going away because it's a metabolic process. Another big mistake people make is they eat the wrong fats on keto. Just because a food is keto friendly doesn't necessarily make it healthy or health friendly. So I see a lot of people who do keto and they're eating these inflammatory fats. You've done a lot of interviews on your show on this topic of seed oils. And these seed oils are all over the place. They're in about 80% of our food supply in the United States. But in the keto space, a lot of people eat them because they're keto friendly, they're fats. But they're highly big mistake people make on keto. They're eating a lot of keto friendly labs and Nordic Naturals, I believe they're called, that process these fish oils much better. They're testing for heavy metals. They're using cold processing. And they do a really good job, and I respect that. And it's preserving that.
Right. You're a fan of fish. You mentioned once a week. Do you feel that should be prescriptive for people to get enough omega-3s? Or do you look at that as an integral piece of maintaining your health?
All of that for sure, right? The social part is important, right? So I'll usually designate a flex day for a social day or a social event. My goal is to get fat adapted, Jesse. As I mentioned, 93% of people are sugar burners. They're stuck burning sugar and glucose, highly inflammatory. It'll age you faster than anything else. A day or a social event makes it a lot easier. People are taking 1, 2, 3, 4 capsules per day. It's a super physiological overdose of fish oil, of EPA and DHA. And what this does, it creates a fluid, leaky cell membrane where that's not good. We don't want a rigid cell.
Brands you've come across.
So he's going into fish oils. It says 0 people are in here, but that's okay. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to review this video because there's some things in here I don't agree with. He says you can go ahead and do a flex day, I think he's saying, and a flex day means you cheat. And I don't think that's a good idea because you can have a lot of reactions in your body because you've eliminated a lot of bad crap. And if you just add them in again, just like that, your gut gets messed up, stuff like that. I'm going to have to listen to this. But he is right about keeping some fish in your diet. Anyway, I'm going to skip to the next video, and then I'm going to review this video, and we'll do bits and pieces of it, specific parts with timestamps, and I can figure that out. So we'll go to the next one.
I was still very red. It took a little over a month before my outside skin actually started to return to normal color. It looked like I'd been boiled.
DC, how did you find Carnivore?
The interviewer is Dave Mack. His link is in the description of the video, so the show notes. Go ahead and check him out. Lots and lots of interviews, and I have been interviewed by him. So just a few weeks ago, I was interviewed by him. And so I really like Dave Mack, but this is a cancer testimony. So this gets exciting. The other ones are more like basic instructional, what carnivore is type thing. Now we'll get into testimonials.
Okay, well, the short story, or the shortest path, my wife found it on YouTube, and she was doing some research on things we're trying to improve my immune system at the time. But at first, obviously, I thought it was just a gimmick because cutting carbs has been something that athletes have done for decades, leading up to competition sort of thing. And as a strength coach, I was thinking, there's nothing new there. So, how can cutting carbs help you build your immune system? So my first response actually was, this is bullshit. But the reason why we're doing all that is because of my
I'll share a little of my opinion here. I thought carnivore was crazy myself. You'll hear that in my testimony. I did. I thought, that's too crazy. That doesn't sound right. But then I did more research. And I found a lot of these testimonies. And that's partly what convinced me.
my blood cancer disease. So this all sort of started back in 2011, and I was living in Japan at the time, in the northern prefecture of Miyagi, between the city Sendai and the coast. And in March of that year, on March 11, we were hit by the 9 magnitude earthquake and then the tsunami. From there, it was a pretty chaotic sort of situation to be in. Rolling aftershocks, some of the aftershocks were over 8 magnitude themselves. It was, trying to find food and water. We're basically, from the next day, my wife and I were on bicycles for quite a while afterwards, just trying to find food and water for the family and for ourselves. It was, pretty chaotic. And, we spent some time, obviously we had, I had family in Australia that was sort of hounding me to go back to Australia. But I was adamant that I was going to stay there and rebuild everything. And we started doing that. And by the time, several months passed, and we did a few things. We took out, we raised a bit of money and took some food and clothes and blankets and that sort of stuff out to some of the shelters, people who didn't have a home to go to. And this was several months later, and then we start rebuilding our lives, going back to work. And in December, I decided to come back to Australia and visit family, just to let them know, see for themselves that I was fine. There was nothing to worry about. And, I was perfectly safe, staying in Japan. But throughout that year, I've been having a bit of trouble. Had a bit of abdominal pain. I was a bit sick every now and then, colds and flus and that sort of thing. And again, when I arrived in Australia in December of 2011, I had another flu just from the traveling.
I'm going to run and get something, but I'm still here and I actually can hear through my earbuds, so that works. Also, let me know if my sound when I talk is fine. So that would be helpful. We'll keep going here.
So I decided to get a checkup while I was here. Previous to that, I really just didn't have time to go to the doctor because of everything that was going on. And they did a blood test, and when the test came back, he's looking a bit puzzled, and he told me how to felt around. He felt around my stomach area a bit, and he told me, look, I think you should stay here and get this sorted out. So my 2 weeks was then extended, and I had to tell my wife that I won't be back on time. I was due to fly back to Japan on the 4th of January in 2012. But she decided to come out here to Australia and just find out what was going on, find out why I couldn't go back. And the day she arrived, which was actually the 4th, the day I was supposed to fly back to Japan, I got a call from the hospital in the city in Brisbane, and they asked me to come and see them. So the next day we all went in together, and surprisingly, it took about 10 minutes after I arrived, and I was in a ward, in a bed, surrounded by doctors and nurses, and telling me all sorts of things. They didn't know what it was, but we need to do some tests, and you have a large mass around in your abdomen that we need to check, and all sorts of things. So at the time, my head was just spinning because I really didn't know what was going on. I felt fine, really, except for a cold or a flu. And so then the prognosis was the initial. Before they actually did the test, they said, look, you've got cancer. We don't know what type of cancer it is yet, and you have a large mass in your abdomen. So then the test began. And at the time, we just didn't know what was going on, so we just went with it. So after the test come back, they told me I have follicular lymphoma, very high stage 4, and I have a large mass tumor wrapped around my aorta. This follicular lymphoma is a type of blood cancer that starts in the lymphatic system. The biggest problem with this diagnosis is that it is a recurring type of cancer. It has no cure, and the more you treat it, well, the best you can hope for is a remission period. But the more you treat it, the shorter those remission periods will be, and the more treatment you will need. So it's like a catch-22, really, isn't it? Like the more you treat it, the more it comes back. So basically, what they're telling you is that for the rest of your life, if you survive the treatment, you're just going to need more and more treatment. So that was a bit of a struggle to sort of get my head around. And on top of that, the tumor was so big, it was about the size of a football, and it was crushing other organs around it because I was quite slim.
Okay. So I need to stop in order for fair use and comment. But I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. He's just going into cancer. Let's go a little further in and see what he has to say about how he switched to why he went carnivore.
And it had already killed my left kidney, and my right kidney was down to just 12% capacity. So it was kind of a race between the cancer and the kidneys as to who was going to kill me first. But either way, at the outside, they thought maybe I'd have, without treatment, maybe 2 months to live if I looked after my.
2 months to live. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine finding out you have cancer and then finding out that 2 months to live? I mean, that's sudden. What is my dog eating? I'm ding-dong off the floor. Sorry. Okay. Let's go on.
My kidney, 3 months at the very outside, but that would be about it. So then the operation started, and they had to try and get my kidneys to flow again. And so they had to put stents in, and they ended up replacing them every couple of months. So it's like an ongoing sort of operations on my kidney, jobs or everything else that we had built up, our business and things like that. So all I had with me was a backpack full of clothes. I was homeless and going through chemotherapy. And basically I was just living in friends and family's spare room and lounge chairs and things like that, just sleeping it off sort of thing. But I didn't, my wife was great about that, actually. I did give her a couple of options. I did tell her that, because I felt selfish about it because it was me that was sick, So I told her, look, if you go back to Japan and you decide you want to stay and just get on with your life, that's fine. I completely understood that. And, she was free to do that. And I told her, look, maybe if I can beat this in a year or so, maybe I can go back and meet you there and we can pick up again. Because I was still thinking I was going to get past this. There wasn't, I did tell her that, because I felt selfish about it because it was me that was sick, So I told her, look, we couldn't keep at home, jobs or everything else that we had built up, our business and things like that. So all I had with me was a backpack full of clothes. I was homeless and going through chemotherapy. And basically I was just living in friends and family's spare room and lounge chairs and things like that, just sleeping it off sort of thing. But I didn't, my wife was great about that, actually. I did give her a couple of options. I did tell her that, because I felt selfish about it because it was me that was sick, So I told her, look, if you go back to Japan and you decide you want to stay and just get on with your life, that's fine. I completely understood that. And, she was free to do that. And I told her, look, maybe if I can beat this in a year or so, maybe I can go back and meet you there and we can pick up again. Because I was still thinking I was going to get past this. There wasn't a point where I felt, at that point especially, I just did not think that this was going to beat me. But she was wonderful. I didn't even have to ask her to do it, to give it all up, because she would be giving up her career, her home, and her family to come and look after me. But I didn't have to ask. She just told me to stop being stupid, and of course she'd do it. She was brilliant. So we had to, obviously she had to go back to Japan to do all that. And the doctors gave me a couple of months, so we didn't really know if we'd ever going to see each other again anyway. We thought that very well might be the last time we saw each other at the airport. And then for the next few months while I'm going through this treatment, I had to try and find a way to set us up here in Australia as well. I had to find us a place to live, set up, bank accounts and, all sorts of things, just, like an international move, and find a way to get a visa for her to stay here with me. So, it was a really chaotic time. But, the R-CHOP was a particularly brutal, heavy dose chemotherapy as well. So it left me, my mouth would, after every treatment, my mouth would fill up with ulcers. My tongue would fill up and, I couldn't move my mouth, even open or close. I had severe IBS from the chemotherapy, of course. I couldn't eat or keep anything down anyway. So for the first couple of weeks, I was pretty much fasting.
Yeah, I'm gonna fast forward through this and find the spot. The therapy obviously is pretty brutal. It's poison. I personally would never do chemo. Never. I would just do carnivore. But he didn't know about carnivore apparently yet. So we'll see how he found it.
And it gave you this bone-shattering pain. Like, it was so sensitive. Like, it felt like the weight, even just lying on bed. I got so sensitive, like even just being around other people, like other people's body odor would make me sick. Just looking at the medication. Yeah. So from there, it took me from stage 4, along with the operations and things like that. They can't operate on the tumor, of course, because it's wrapped around my aorta and easy. Like compared to R-CHOP, there was no pain involved. It took 2 minutes to treat. It did make you feel a bit sick, but a few medications took care of that. But after that, it was they put me on a plan, a rituximab plan that it was supposed to last 2 years. But it wasn't too bad. The rituximab wasn't too bad, and about a year into it, I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling pretty positive, and I was still going and having this treatment every 2 months. But after 5 days or so, I was fine. And about a year into it, I was feeling that good. I started going back to the gym with my wife and started training again. So I was feeling really positive actually about beating it and getting over it. So this was about 2013, mid 2013, and November I had another test, another treatment, and I was doing really good. And then January 2014, and almost 2 years to the day, they told me, I went back for another treatment, and they told me that it was back. I was back up to very high stage 4 again. So basically, I'd just done 2 years solid of chemotherapy, and I was back to square one. So that was really demoralizing. At the time, just before this, I was feeling great. I was back in the gym, and I was thinking, I can get past it. And then they told me it's back again, and it's very high stage 4 again. So from there, they wanted to put me through a clinical trial. And it's something I had to think about before we started.
Okay, I just want to stop it here for a minute and explain why carnivore is so good to combat cancer. Right now in his journey, my dog, what are you doing? Is he doesn't know about carnivore. So, or low carb. Pause, stop it. Stop. And so, but low carb means that you don't have, your blood sugar isn't going up and down, up and down. And if you get enough fat and you're in ketosis and you're testing for that and you're testing your blood sugar so that you're not in gluconeogenesis, which I have talked about a lot, then you are really keeping cancer at bay because what it feeds on is sugar. I don't know of anything else that sugar feeds on. I mean, cancer feeds on, but glucose, sugar. So, anyway, as far as I know, and Dr. Siegfried, he has done the research on that, and he has a book. I can't remember what it's called. It's a really good book, actually. I think I put it in my notepad. I need to find, or no, I did find it. I think it's in my Audible. Anyway, I'll have to listen to that book, but it's all about combating cancer with low carb. And so the research is there. It's just that the money isn't in it, and the money's in the other treatments like chemo and stuff like that, and these medications. But obviously it didn't work for long. It just worked a little bit. So let's go on and listen to his story. And I'm going to feed my dog, so I'll be getting up from the chair.
Starting to think, well, what's the point? If we go through all of that, and I didn't really get much of a remission. I was still on treatment through this so-called remission time. It took me about a week or so to decide whether or not to go through with it. I did ask my doctor, look, if I decide not to continue with this, how long would you give me? Do you think I would last? And again, it was much the same as the first time. It would only be 2, maybe 3 months. So, after discussing it with the wife again, we just decided to go with it. And they did say though, this clinical trial was for a drug called bendamustine. Now, this was supposed to be as effective as the R-CHOP, but without any of the painful side effects. So I figured, well, okay, if it's not going to be as painful, then it should be a bit of a cakewalk, and it won't be a problem. I got through R-CHOP, I should be able to get through this. So we started the first treatment about a month later, or a little less actually, about 2 weeks later. And from there, I was driving myself to and from the hospital. So when I got home after the first treatment, I had a really bad fever, and it just started to skyrocket. I couldn't really think straight. I was dizzy, so I went to sleep it off. And my wife told me arms as well. And then by the fourth one, I had long blood clots from my wrist due to it. But we're halfway through, and I just figured I just didn't really have anything to lose at the time, so we kept going. The test, it just got worse. So this was, it was pretty unusual technique actually. You go under and you have an operation to have this put in, but when they took it out, we just had one nurse brace my shoulder and another one just pull it out, and it was job done. It's kind of felt like living in the dark ages, So from there, it got really I was very unstable because of the infection. From that, and this, this was all going on while my wife was sitting in a chair next to the bed. She was sitting there all day watching this happen. That's something I should say as well. Like she was, but the transplant was particularly rough. It was quite brutal. Going into it, they told me I needed to make a will because they didn't think I'd survive. And quite often, I slept when I got home on the Friday night. Like I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. I was cooked inside out. I was red like a lobster. I had lost about 100 pounds, about 40 kilos while I was there. It felt good to me though at the time because I just had to get out of the place at the time. I don't know what it was. It just felt like I was going to die there. So I had to get out, and it felt good. It was very red. It took a little over a month before my outside skin actually started to return to normal color. It looked like I'd been boiled, and I had just had layers coming off the inside of my mouth, my tongue, and from my organs just inside. I started breathing. I started doing a modified version of like Wim Hof deep breathing exercises until I could do the real thing. And that really helped. Actually, it helped me get my lymphatic system moving. IBS, a lot of reflux. I had many ulcers in my stomach because of it.
He's still talking about the repercussions of the cancer, but he's starting to get into the treatment side of it. And that Wim Hof breathing is supposed to be really good. It's pretty simple from what I've researched. I think it's just box breathing, like 4 in and hold it and then 4 out. I think that's it. Anyway, but it's making sure that you're breathing in deep. I'll have to research it again, but I think that's what it is. It's just diaphragmatic breathing, where you breathe into using your diaphragm, which I always, not always, but I breathe like that generally because I sing. And so anyway, it's just deep breathing. And then there's cold plunge, and there's also red light therapy. Like there's different treatments that you can do naturally that help your body's mitochondria, and the Life Pro and the vibration plate, or a different brand of vibration plate, and the rebounder mini trampoline also helps because it gets your lymphatic system moving and cleaned out, because cancer can get into your lymph nodes and then spread that way. So if you keep the lymphatic system clean and moving, then it's hard for anything to rest there. But let's go on and see. I skipped through, and some parts of this may have been important, surgeries and things like that. But in a long story short, he's had a lot of treatments and different grueling things, and the chemical burnt him. He was red all over and just felt like his whole body was burnt. So it's horrific. It really is horrific. It's like poison fighting poison. The cancer, the treatments are poison too. I see somebody's in here. We have a new format tonight. It's Carnivore Testimony Night, and we're listening to a guy's testimony, but he hasn't gotten to the part where he's gone to carnivore yet, but I think we're really, really close. And so if I skipped through parts of it, so it'll be jumpy if you go back and watch the replay. But anyway, here we go. Let's go back and see where he changed. And I've got to go check on my little dog, but I'll mute myself and go check on him because he's whining again. Don't know what his issue is. I'm going to feed my dogs while I'm up.
I couldn't think, I couldn't concentrate. Like people would come and visit and talk to me for hours, and 10 minutes later, or even halfway through a conversation, I'd forget what we're talking about, or 10 minutes after they left, I'd forgotten they'd. And that, to me at the time, that was kind of a victory. Like I could keep up with my wife and go for a walk. But it also left me, very tired for a long time. Even just going for, I'm basically living blood test to blood test, because every time you get a blood test on follicular lymphoma, it could be that time they tell you that it's back. What's the point? I don't want to spend the rest of my life in hospital. I don't want to spend the rest of my life. I'm just doing nothing. The whole day is basically spent in bed. It felt great. I was back in the gym, but as soon as I got sick, I was out of the gym again for the next couple of months. And all these gurus will tell you you need. But it did help that I was pretty much eating mostly meat throughout this whole period, and geez, I just don't know if I can do this. My immune system's not strong enough. I can't keep going. So that got pretty tough as well. You get those setbacks, and sometimes it's really difficult to get past. But I started looking at all these different things to try and boost my immune system, and I was adding all sorts of fruits, vegetables, herbs and spices. You try all these different things that all these gurus will tell you that you need. But it did help that I was pretty much eating mostly meat throughout this whole period, and even though it was slow, I was recovering. I was getting stronger each time, each year, and I thought I was doing really well. I actually got it out to 9 years in remission. Which, considering that the first year, the first 2 treatments were only 2 years apart, and the whole time I was pretty much on treatment. that felt really good. I managed to get all my medications down to just one, which from the start, I was on like 2 shopping bags full of medications, every time I went to the hospital. But I think this was also the problem with the first remission was that, when you're going through chemotherapy, it's not just the medications you have to fight. Not just the chemotherapy you have to fight. It's the medications. See, a lot of medications are steroid based, and the steroids will drive your blood sugar up. And so what this basically means is that cancer feeds on sugar. When they do tests, they always run a sugar solution through you to see where it collects, and the tumors just eat it up. And if you see it under a microscope, it just sucks it up like water in a sponge. So this whole time they're breaking my body down with chemotherapy, but they're feeding it sugar to which feeds the cancer. And I'm not saying that it didn't work. It's just that these medications I just don't think are the right. If you might need chemotherapy, but I don't think you need the steroids and things like that. The dietary advice is even worse. While you're actually going through treatment, that was one thing actually I saw when I was actually getting treated. I saw a lot of different people, all different ages. But some of these people would actually wheel their treatment trolley outside so they could have a cigarette. And at the time I was thinking, this is crazy. Why are you even here? But they were doing the same thing to us. While we were being treated, they were giving us cakes, cookies, nothing but carbohydrates and sugars, sugar drinks, soft drinks, and they'd almost force you to drink ginger ale because ginger helps settle your stomach. It was crazy. So I think this all sort of led up to the very short remission period. While I was going through all these treatments, I was on a lot of steroids and a lot of sugar. Aside from that, at home, throughout this period, we never eat out. We only ever cooked at home, which I think really helped a lot. And it kept me in remission. I was basically doing a ketogenic sort of style diet for those 9 years. And, I thought I was doing really well, actually. I was doing very well. I was doing very well because, I'd made it to 9 years in complete remission. I was down on one medication. I still had IBS and I had reflux and a few other side effects. But I still felt good. So, but the difference between being on that sort of ketogenic sort of diet and carnivore has been like night and day. It's been like, you're almost there, but that, say 90% there on keto, but that extra 10% is like a different world. And I started that about 6 months ago now, just over. And, it's, because basically I started, like I said before, I thought it was just ridiculous because, something my wife found and, it's just a gimmick. But at the time, I really didn't have anything to lose. So I looked into it a bit more, and I found Dr. Baker, and then Dr. Ken Berry, and Dr. Chafee, and Professor Seyfried. And I saw what they were doing with diabetes. Now, they hadn't done it with cancer, or blood cancer, my particular blood cancer at least. I saw what, I don't know if you ever see that dog on YouTube, had a tumor on its nose. Okay. Well, Professor Seyfried, they treated this dog, basically just put her on a carnivore diet, and this tumor just disappeared. Right? So, after looking at all this stuff, I think, well, I'm either going to prove it or disprove it. So I went all in.
Okay, I'm going to comment here. He's talking about cancer feeding on sugar, just like I was talking about. And you can even see it under a microscope. It's pretty amazing. Like, the science is there. It's there. So, if you ended up getting cancer, or I did, I would never go on chemo. And those medications, they create sugar. And I've heard that they create glucose. And I've heard that from people who have cancer, stage 4 cancer. This, my massage therapist's daughter has cancer. And she said they sent her home. They couldn't help her anymore. And so they said that, basically you're on your own. And she'd been eating carnivore. And I said, what is the cancer feeding on? There's no sugar. And she said, well, it was the medication that she was taking along with it. it was creating sugar. So it was negating what she was doing with carnivore. So carnivore is really the best line of defense. So let's listen to how he got into carnivore. I rewound it a little bit.
I still had IBS, and I had reflux and a few other side effects, but I still felt good. But the difference between being on that sort of ketogenic sort of diet and carnivore has been like night and day. It's been like you're almost there, but that, like, say 90% there on keto, but that extra 10% is like a different world. And I started that about 6 months ago now, just over. And it's because basically I started. I mean, like I said before, I thought it was just ridiculous because something my wife found, and it's just a gimmick. But at the time, I really didn't have anything to lose. So I looked into it a bit more, and I found Dr. Baker, and then Dr. Kenberry, and Dr. Chafee, and Professor Seyfried. And I saw what they were doing with diabetes. And they hadn't done it with cancer, or blood cancer, my particular blood cancer at least. I saw what, I don't know if you ever see that dog on YouTube, had a tumor on its nose. Okay. Well, Professor Seyfried, they treated this dog, basically just put her on a carnivore diet, and this tumor just disappeared. Right. So, after looking at all this stuff, I think, well, I'm either going to prove it or disprove it. So I went all in, and like I stopped taking my supplements. I was taking, protein powders and vitamins and all sorts of stuff before, and I just thought, well, okay, let's just stop doing all that, and I'll just eat meat. So I just went on to beef, ground beef mostly, steak, eggs, a little bit of bacon, and 3 months into that, I had another blood test with my oncologist. Previous to this, my blood markers had all been quite low. They were still well below a healthy normal range. Within 3 months of carnivore, my blood markers across the board jumped an average of 8 to 10 points, and this got me really excited.
So just to clarify, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it jumped up. So that got me really excited. Before that, before the last couple of years, I've been feeling pretty good. But before that, it was every blood test. I was just living blood test to blood test. And like even the lease on my house, my apartment, I would never go past 6 months, because that's every 6 months I was getting blood tests. So there was just didn't see a point to having at least longer than that. So that's what we did. But after this, my first blood test on carnivore, I decided to get myself another GP, because I hadn't had one for the last 4 years, because I just have a very deep distrust of them here in Australia. But I found, again, my wife found a really good GP who came out from Japan, is now working here in Australia, in Brisbane. And I had another blood test done. And so basically, just over 6 months in on carnivore, my blood markers have not just jumped more than 20 points. All of my markers, and there are quite a number of them, like my lymphocytes, my platelets, and all sorts of things, have now reached just inside a normal, healthy range, which is just...
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's miraculous. It's a miracle, really. So it's, for all that, there've been a number of improvements. Quite a lot of improvements since going carnivore. But of course, this is a big one. All my blood markers are now in a normal, healthy range, which I didn't ever think would be possible again. After the last 12 years, I started thinking, well, it's just not going to happen. But since starting, also I've had, you get a lot of carnivores. They say this brain fog is lifting. That brain fog lift has been absolutely amazing. I can concentrate again. I can think. I can remember things better. And it's continuing to improve. Like, it just keeps getting better. And like after 3 solid years of chemotherapy, like all very heavy dose chemotherapy, my brain was cooked. So to get any kind of ability to think again back, it feels fantastic. My IBS is gone. I used to treat it with sauerkraut, fermented vegetables like sauerkraut and kimchi, but now I don't need it at all. I don't have any reflux. I don't have any joint pain, anything like that anymore. And basically at the moment, after being stage 4 twice, And with follicular lymphoma, at the moment, I have 0 medications. I'm on absolutely 0 medications at all, and no health issues. In the first couple of months going carnivore, I started to get cold, and basically what I did was increase the fat intake. I started eating beef fat as a snack, and it lasted 2 days. Whereas before it would last me 3 months. To go from months out of action, out of in bed with a cold or flu, to 2 days is just, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just like the change and how quickly that's happened is just phenomenal.
Yeah. And even though I was back in the gym and I'd lost a lot of weight before I started carnivore, I wasn't trying to lose weight. I just, because I'm more worried about my blood, I've lost nearly 40 pounds.
If you take, like, there's that kind of the chemo period and all this recovery that you went through where your body was basically cooked. When you compare the time before that to now, I mean, have you recovered to the same level as you were before all this happened? Do you feel?
No, actually, I feel better. I feel better because it took me some time before I was diagnosed, and the year of the earthquake, and before that, I was having some issues with colds and flus and that. I feel like I'm in my 20s again. Like I'm 50 years old now. But like I'm back in the gym, and 5-6 days a week. I don't need a nap afterwards. I'm not sleeping most of the day, and I feel great. I have great energy levels. But like I said before, we just got back from Japan last week, and just getting around, we did an average of 21,000 steps a day, like every single day. I feel great.
One thing that people don't bank on coming to Japan is how much you're going to have to walk around and climb steps and all that kind of thing. So
and how much
is
you can do that uphill as well. They love stairs in Japan. It's really great. But another thing is, before carnivore, I would get, if I was just awake for more than a couple of hours, I'd be so tired, and I'd get fevers, and I always have to watch my fever and make sure I'm not, it's climbing a bit. So I haven't had a fever. Even traveling to Japan, doing all this walking around in large groups of people, I didn't even have a fever, not a headache, not a problem at all. It was an amazing trip.
Just listening to your story, it sounds like when you're going through the chemo, I mean, you can really feel how demoralizing and it would have been to you go through all that. You've climbed to the top of the hill, you've beat everything off, you got to the top of the hill and they go, oh, no, it's back again. And it's like you push down to the bottom of the hill. Like, I mean, your outlook for the future must be completely different now than it was when you were going through all that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, now I'm looking long term, what I can do long term. And that took a long time to work up. Like I said before, I was only ever living blood test to blood test, and at first that was every week, and then eventually got out to every 6 months, and it's still every 6 months now. But I'm not concerned about that anymore. I'm not concerned about my blood test. I'm actually looking forward to my blood test now. Whereas before, the week of the blood test would be quite stressful. But now I'm also looking to plan what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Whereas before, it didn't matter because I didn't have a rest of my life. There was no future to.
So his turnaround is absolutely amazing, and it looks like he has a channel called DC Learning to Live. See underneath him, and anyway, the banner underneath him shows his channel. So check it out. Yeah, quite amazing, and he feels better than he did before he was diagnosed with cancer. So we'll listen to a little bit more and then we'll go on to another one. How long have we been on? I think I'll do 20 more minutes. We'll see, maybe a half hour.
To look for or to plan for, whereas now I can do that. It's a completely different lifetime ago.
Like, does it actually feel like that? Does it feel like you've closed the door?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, you forget pain. It doesn't. I mean, I remember what it was like back then, but I don't remember the actual pain itself. I don't feel that pain again. So it's something I can talk about, but it's not something I don't need to relive it anymore. It's like a story, but the next part of my story is only just starting. So it's just like closing a book, and you move on to the next one. And it's hard. I know it's very difficult for people to understand that when you are in a tough situation, it's really, or like I couldn't move for years. It's hard to get going, and when you have a setback, it's hard to get to overcome it and get going again. But basically, all I did was I didn't look at what I couldn't do. I looked at what I could do. So, for example, when I started doing breathing exercises, I couldn't do even the basic level entry for like Wim Hof sort of breathing exercise. So I cut that in half, and then I started with that. And then when I could do that, I thought, well, okay, this is good. I can do this. What can I do now? And I sort of looked at it like, sort of like driving at night. You might not always have a long-term plan in mind because you can't really see that far ahead. But, if you have a small plan, like just like a one step at a time sort of thing, your headlights let you see so far. And then when you get to that point, it lets you see it a little bit further ahead, So I get to that point and I think, okay, what can I do now? Okay, then I do this, and then, okay, what can I do now? And it just progressed from there, just a few short years ago, I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, I couldn't even get off the bed for, even 10 minutes. But now, you have a look at some of my training videos. I do some pretty big things, and it just takes one step at a time.
That's definitely the best way to be looking at it. Just do what you can and keep moving forward, right? Can you talk a little bit about your YouTube channel?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's DC Learning to Live, because basically it's not just about me. It's see, I am learning to live again. I know it seems a bit late at 50, but you start where you can. And I believe that no one is an expert on life. We are all here just learning to live, basically. So that's why I call it. That's why I call it DC Learning to Live. Basically, what I really want to show people is that it doesn't matter what tough time you're going through. Tough times are not permanent, and you will, and you can get past it. And if you just put the effort in, just one step at a time, you will eventually get there. It's like climbing a mountain. Is if you look at the peak all the time, it looks overwhelming. But if you just focus on that next step, eventually you're going to get there. Another reason I started this is because I want people to see that you are stronger than you think you are, and try not to give up. It sort of drives me a bit. I just don't want people to think that just because it's tough now that it's never going to get better. It can do. It really can. Hopefully, if my story can help some people in not just going through tough times, but also going through treatments themselves, I'd like to help with that as well. So I interviewed Professor Seafried once, and I have some more interviews coming up with some other doctors too that will help people on treatments and hopefully with diet, and hopefully prevent it. If people can get onto carnivore before they get sick, that would be ideal.
Definitely. DC, I really appreciate you talking to us today and sharing your journey, and I'm very very happy.
Okay, so it's too bad more people aren't in here tonight. It's a bummer, but so that was such an amazing story, and one of the things that I am thinking about right now is the fact that if it can heal, if carnivore low carb can heal cancer like that, then what else can it heal? You know, I mean, cancer's like the worst thing. It's death. It's at death's door, stage 4 cancer, you know? So, and this guy was miserable on the treatments, and the treatments were just up and down, and not really, they were just a Band-Aid, even though, you know, he lived a little bit longer, but, you know, but it was always touch and go. He always had the gauntlet hanging over him that, you know, this could be any time, could be it every day, you know. In some ways, it's not a bad way to live. This might be my last day, but again, you know, if you've got fear or anything like that in relationship to it, it's not any way to live, you know.
To hear, you know, what where you are now in that journey. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dave. It's like I said before, you know, I really appreciate you having me on your channel, actually. Thanks very much.
So now we'll go on to the next testimonial, and I think I'll give it another 20 minutes or so, and then I'll end the live stream unless I have a bunch of people come in and we're ready to chit chat a little bit or talk about what was shared tonight. Next time I'll probably preview the video more so that I'm not guessing, you know, when their turnaround story happens and stuff, so that we don't have to listen to too many details just because I want to condense it for you guys. But let's go on to the next testimonial.
And
Wow.
it's just, I'm happy about it. I haven't grieved anything, and you know, like cupcakes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously we're here today to
That, I mean, like, God came down and gave me a miracle.
I was still very.
I did the experiment. So I did 90 days.
All right, carnivores, buckle up. Today I'm going to tell you about the Bellevue study of 1928. The original carnivore experiment.
I got married and had a beautiful son and continued down the road 2017 where I was on my way to work and ended up in a car crash. I do remember, for whatever reason, looking up in the rearview mirror and seeing this semi just barreling down, going full speed. It never stopped. There was no skid mark.
Oops, I stopped it and didn't unmute myself. So this is Adam. I believe his last name is Lacy. He's doing a documentary with Carrie Mann on Carnivore. And anyway, and this is Kent Carnivore. And he's really good. If I remember right, he has medical, background. And anyway, so take a listen. He came back from brain damage, so we'll listen to his testimony. I've heard it before. Really great. As you can tell, he doesn't have brain damage anymore. So take a listen.
Marks or anything, and he was carrying a full load of steel. So you can just imagine the explosion that happened. Once the impact was made, I don't remember anything at that point until I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Aside from getting married and having children, it's the greatest decision that I've ever made in my entire life.
Yeah. So Adam, I think that not enough people have heard your story. It's a heck of a story. It kind of reminds me of how unpredictable life is. Sometimes you enter a frame and your whole world can just change. And in many ways, I think you're very lucky to be alive. So perhaps you could get into this with as much or a little detail as you're comfortable.
Sure, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me on, Lee. I really appreciate this. It's an honor to actually speak with Kent, aka Lee. So when I was younger, I did struggle a lot with being a little bit of a hellion, a little hellraiser, problem child, things like that. Looking back, it probably was the majority of the diet because I did eat a lot of McDonald's, a lot of junk food, things like that. My parents didn't spend a lot of time with breakfast, dinner, just because they were rushed for time. They were working lots and lots and lots and lots. So anyways, fast forward, that carried in through my adult life. And I continued on the path of just eating a standard American diet. And it never really dawned on me that it could be causing deeper problems, potentially even mental illness and, severe issues like that. So things progressively got worse for me. I gained weight. I did spiral into states of depression. I always had severe anxiety my entire life. Like, for instance, I would never be doing something like this. This would have, I would have canceled this for sure. So fast forward a little bit, I got married and had a beautiful son and continued down the road of actually eating even worse than at that point. I put on a belly as if I was the one that was pregnant, and that continued on for some years. And eventually that led to a situation in 2017 where I was on my way to work and ended up in a car crash. It's a pretty severe car crash. There was a fatality, and I was actually the third car in line of 4 cars that was involved in this with major issues, health issues, and damage to the vehicles. And that basically was a turning point in my life for sure, because up until that point, aside from the mental health struggles and the weight issues, I wasn't really having too many other problems in my life. I had gastritis at one point, but that went away. But I was generally what I felt was normal or healthy until that point. And that was pretty catastrophic for me, especially mentally, with the issues that I had after that car crash. Major balance issues. I had cognitive issues where I could only roughly take 30 minutes to an hour of the day, and I would start to get severe migraines. And gradually over time, this got a little bit better, but I couldn't work for several weeks. And then I was put on 2-hour days, then 4-hour days, 6-hour days, 8-hour days. After that 8 hours, I was spent. I came home, I had absolutely nothing. Also during this time, I had severe motor tics. So once my brain did get to a point where it was overloaded, my head would jerk uncontrollably as if I had Tourette syndrome. And that just added to the depression, the anxiety, not wanting to be around anyone else in social situations in case that started to happen. Even though I couldn't control it, it's in your head, right? Like, what are people thinking? I was always, outside myself. Never really felt like myself. Back when I was in my early teens, late teens, before I got married, I was doing martial arts. I was a secondary junior black belt in Taekwondo. I was a brown sash in Kung Fu, and I was doing other martial arts at the time as well. I was actually in sparring competitions, weapons competitions, and demonstrations, coaching youth at the Junior Olympics of Taekwondo, and balance was impeccable. Like, I had incredible balance. And once I had that car crash, I could not close my eyes standing up, or I would immediately fall over. So yeah, that just added to the mental health issues that I was having at that point.
What's your memory of that incident? Did it just happen so fast that you can't really piece it all together? Or?
Well, there's not much to share here. So I do remember the moments leading up to that. So I do remember coming to a stop on the.
I'm going to skip through again, but needless to say, he was had balance issues, had to learn things again. So here we go.
the highway. And I remember, basically it was a standstill. It wasn't like we're rolling or anything like that. It was a parking lot. And I remember just for whatever reason looking up in the rearview mirror and seeing the semi just barreling down. It's going full speed. It never stopped. There was no skid marks or anything during the investigation later. And he was carrying a full load of steel. So you can just imagine the explosion that happened. All I seen was just car parts and pieces flying everywhere. And remembering back, it's almost like I was in the Matrix, like a sort of slow motion, how I'm seeing all that stuff. And once the impact was made, I don't remember anything at that point until I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital.
Wow. I think that you said that you lost 10% of your brain function. How do they measure that exactly? Or is that kind of like a rough estimate?
I think it's more of a rough estimate, basically based on, what a healthy person should be able to do versus what I was not able to do. And that was all sorts of tests that they did. There was psychological tests they would do. There was neurological tests they would do. There was memory tests, speech tests, balance tests, obviously the physical portion of it as well. And they determined that roughly I had lost 10% of what I actually had before. So,
which is huge. That's massive, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's massive. You get one brain, you get one life, and here you are in this situation.
That's right.
So how long did it take until you felt like you got back to somewhat of a normal life? Perhaps you could take us through that a little bit.
Sure. So that was 2017, February of 2017 when I had that accident. And I was on limited work and things like that for a minimum of 6 months. And things did start to get better, gradually improve over that time, but it never fully resolved. I still had the tics. I still had, my brain would get to a certain point of the day. I would get migraines and I'd have to stop. I still had vertigo effects. If I walked down a long hall or a corridor, for whatever reason, that would trigger a vertigo effect. Everything would just start spinning and I'd fall over. So those sorts of issues still were in effect, still happening. And I did attempt to try to go back to doing more full-time photojournalism that I was doing at the time as well. And there was one point where, sorry, this is a little side note, little sidetrack. So I was covering one of the USPGA Masters Tournament tours. We got to the 18th hole and Tiger Woods is out there on the putting green. And because I had media access, I had actually had inside the ropes access, which is even, better than some of the other media. So I was, of course, hey, I'm going in, I'm getting as close as I possibly can to get the shot. And I came this close, Lee, to passing out and falling down and rolling down a hill on national TV. and it was all just due to the balance issues and the cognitive issues where my brain was basically overloaded. Something that's stupid because that would have ruined my entire career. I would have never been credentialed anywhere else if something like that had happened. But so at any rate, things did slightly get improved over a couple of years. I went to speech therapy. My wife is an occupational therapist, so I was doing quite a bit with her and of course, physical therapy for 2 years. And it just finally got to a point where things had plateaued for me and I still had these issues. I would say roughly 5%, 6% of the problems were still there. And the doctors basically said, this is probably a permanent thing. It's probably not going to really get any better than this. So I stopped going to therapy. I still practice some things, memory, recall and practices, in that area, but it never resolved. So fast forward 4 years after the accident, a friend of mine and my business partner, he contracted prostate cancer. So he's searching for ways to try to, beat the cancer and found a protocol that a friend of his was on 17 years ago, which was essentially a raw vegan diet. Now, mind you, at the time I'm eating trash. I'm just eating whatever at this point still. So out of solidarity with him, I said, hey man, I'll do this with you. If this is what you want to do, I'll do this with you. Even though I absolutely can't stand vegetables and then having to eat them raw is like, so gross. So yeah, I got into the juicing and just all that stuff and that whole entire space. Well, while I had the head injury, I got to rewind a little bit. I had an issue called vitiligo around my waist where it's a condition where your skin doesn't produce melanin. It's an autoimmune condition. And it never really changed for a long, long time until I went on this raw vegan diet. So I did this for almost 2 years and that autoimmune condition got worse. It showed up on my arms and I thought, my God, this is going to show up on my face or something like that. And that's where I started looking into how can I reverse this? And that's how I came upon the carnivore diet.
Right. Because Joe Rogan, he's talked about that, right?
Yep.
Is that how you found it? Or?
Yep.
Interesting. So he went vegan to try to heal the vitiligo. Is that how you say it? The skin condition. Yeah, we'll go on.
Yep, that's exactly how I felt. Right, nice. So, I've always been sort of a rebel, like I mentioned, from my past. So I don't like agreeing with authority and palling, chumming up with authority and things like that. So I see the medical establishment as sort of an authority figure. And I just can't accept the fact that I can't change my reality. So, I went to YouTube University, typed it in, how do you reverse vitiligo? And I found a video from Joe Rogan where he talks about that. And he said he went on a carnivore diet and it started to get better. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. The doctors are saying basically that this is an irreversible condition. It may get a little bit better. You can spend money on, thousands of dollars on these treatments and maybe it'll get a little bit better. Maybe it won't. Probably it won't. So what is this carnivore diet, right? And of course, then I went down the rabbit hole and found Dante Ferrigno from Ferrigno Freedom. His story was so inspiring to me as a regular dude that didn't seem like he was selling anything and it seemed like his transformation was real. I looked into it some more, found Dr. Berry, found Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Chafee, and all the other doctors, these MDs that weren't selling products. They're saying, just eat from this section of the grocery and not this section of the grocery. That's it. So I thought, what have I got to lose, right? The heart attack thing, potentially, but whatever, right? I'm a rebel, so I tried it. And aside from getting married and having children, that's the greatest decision that I've ever made in my entire life.
Yeah, I second that 100%. So how is the progress with the vitiligo?
It did start to reverse, just like Joe's did, but it hasn't really progressed since. And you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
Everything else that's healed is just, I don't care. Like, I could literally have that condition still and have it get worse, but everything else that I benefited from, it's worth it. It's worth it 100%.
Exactly. When your outlook changes, it's how you see things often, isn't it? That's all that matters. So in terms of your brain damage?
Yeah, it's 100%. So I feel like I'm actually like 110%.
That's amazing.
I feel like, all of that's fully resolved. The tics are gone. The migraines are gone. Yeah.
I'm a little bit jealous.
The vertigo is gone. I couldn't lay down at night and close my eyes. Like I had to have a light on in the room to fixate on the horizon. If I didn't, the room would start spinning, and sometimes I get sick from it. So all of that is gone. My balance is impeccable again. So I've lost all this weight. I wasn't even doing it for weight, and I lost 80 pounds. Like, what the heck? I'm starting to gain muscle.
That's a lot of weight as well.
Yeah, Max, Bella's husband, he was like, dude, like, I just saw you a month ago, and it looks like you're packing on muscle. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, eating steak.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what do you attribute that to in terms of, say, like we focus on your brain and cognition and all this kind of stuff? What would you put that down to, do you think? Obviously, you've cut a lot of things out and now you're eating differently, but what do you think's going on with that?
I attribute the healing of my brain to the amount of cholesterol that I'm eating. I'm giving my body bioavailable nutrients that can actually repair the nerve damage and the damage that was done in my brain. There's no other way to put it.
Oops, I forgot to mute again. But that is one of the most important points right there. That is healing. That's what I tell you. Eat your fat. It's healing. And yeah, like Dr. Kiltz says, it should be called Fativore. You can look up all these channels, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Baker, and he mentioned a bunch of channels. Who else did he mention? Homestead How, Carrie Mann. Yeah, there's a bunch. Bella from Steak and Butter Gal. If you look up Steak and Butter Gal, I think her channel on YouTube is called Steak and Butter Gal. Anyway, yeah. So lots of good information out there. But that's a really good point. His brain healed from the fat. He needed it, And I want to go back to something that was said in the previous video, that they feed you carbohydrates and sugar when you have cancer. Insanity. Insanity. It's like they're trying to keep you sick, or they're just flat out ignorant. I don't know what the deal is. It's a money pit. It really is a money pit, because you could heal if you cut the sugar and the carbs out. So I'm going to go on, and we'll see what the tail of this testimony is. Maybe I'll go ahead and go till 7. That'll put us 2 hours in. I've been an hour and 39. We'll see. We'll see. I see there's 2 people on. Let me know.
Because, standard American diet, things got a little bit better. I would argue that it was probably the fat and the meats, the cholesterol that I was eating in my diet that was allowing it to gradually improve over time. And then I went on a raw vegan diet, which is supposedly, really, really good. It was a total elimination diet. Like, I didn't have processed foods. I didn't have any excess sugars or anything. I mean, I ate super, super clean and supposedly extremely healthy. And that issue never resolved itself in 2 years. Yeah. So I go carnivore, 100% carnivore. And within 5 months, the brain issues completely 100% resolved itself. So there's no other question in my mind that it was the carnivore diet that healed my brain damage.
Incredible.
Absolutely.
Do you want to get into what your carnivore diet looks like? And has that evolved, like from day one to where you are now?
I basically started with Dr. Berry's protocol, if you will, beef, butter, bacon, eggs. And gradually over time, I just stopped eating as much bacon. It started out, I think, because I'm lazy, and bacon is very messy, and I don't want to do any cleanup. So that's the main reason, I think. But also because it's extremely.
That reminds me, cooking bacon in the air fryer is awesome. It's the grease doesn't go everywhere. It stays in the air fryer. It's amazing. And then you can just pour the grease into a jar, and you can even, reuse it to fry or to eat. I eat bacon grease by the spoonful because you need the fat, right? Chilled bacon fat, I should say.
High in salt, which for most people is a good thing on a carnivore diet. You want to have that salt. Salt, as I'll get into, sort of posed a problem for me, and I'm not sure exactly why. So over time, I learned to cut out the dairy as well. I learned that I can handle minimal amounts of butter, but I can't really handle milk or cheeses or heavy creams.
That's a really good point too. It's really personalized. You have to find out what you tolerate. So I don't do dairy very well. I'm eating the last of the cheese that I have, and then I'm gonna knock it off. So anyway, I don't know why my dog is still hungry. I have fed him twice and he is fine. Stop. He's licking my foot. Whatever. My dogs are uncarnivore. They're fully carnivore. And they're doing good.
Because it almost immediately causes skin issues. I'll get acne on my face, I'll get acne on my chest and my back, and it takes a very, very, very long time, roughly 3 months for this to clear. And I'm not sure exactly what that is. I try to follow Dr. Berry's saying where he says milk's for babies. So if I should tolerate it, I would most definitely partake in having dairy because I love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's very Moorish. It's very satisfying. We all get cravings, I think, for that stuff. I think.
Personally, I love cheese and heavy cream, but milk, not so much. I mean, I used to drink it, but it wasn't my favorite thing, So I'd use it to make cream sauce, but now I just make heavy cream sauce. And I don't do as badly with cream, heavy cream. But dairy is an issue, and it can be an issue for Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune. My body is attacking my thyroid gland. And so I really should cut cheese out and leave it out. But I had some, and I wanted to use it for some recipes and things like that over the holidays, so I did. But now I'm going to eat it up and be done with it.
In my opinion, if you're an autoimmune sufferer, you certainly lose your plant privileges, but I think you also lose your dairy privileges because of the casein. And so perhaps, you can tolerate perhaps ghee or a little bit of butter if your steak's a bit lean here and there, but preferably you want to just stay on track. And that's kind of true of me.
I never would have imagined that this was even possible. And how I feel, the lack of inflammation, the cognitive improvements,
Also, a good test of whether you're tolerating a food or not is testing your blood sugar and your ketones.
Focus, the mental clarity that I have, I do feel like I'm connected spiritually, which just kind of seems strange to even say that, my higher self, my spirit, I feel like I'm connected much more with that. It's just incredible.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because I feel like we've got quite a bit in common actually. Because when I met you, I didn't realize how creative you actually were. Would you like to get into some of what you do? Your creative side, because you were showing me a bit of your artwork and stuff like that. Obviously, you're a professional photographer, and now you're helping with the whole production and the direction of the documentary, which is why I met you.
Absolutely. So Lee mentions some of the drawings that I've done. Since I've gone carnivore, I've done literally to nothing else in the carnivore diet. When I was younger, I would do pencil sketches and things like that, doodling around. Some of them were probably better. The creative side of me has just opened up, and through my journey with the carnivore diet, large just sort of, I wouldn't say suppresses this information, but it's just not available. What a better way than to
I skipped through a little bit just because nobody's on here, but the replay will be fine. And the other thing is, I guess his point is that the creative side of him really opened up and he was able to be more creative because of carnivore. I think that's really true and awesome. I feel like that with me too. I'm going to start playing more music, and I'm doing the crochet and pick up my paints again. I just have to make time for all these things.
To show real life stories of people that have transformed themselves, such as yourself, Lee, and they're on a proper human diet and things are so much better for them. Now, some will say that, hey, yeah, this is anecdotal evidence, but you know what? When you have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of anecdotes, at some point you have to understand that this is actually evidence, right? It may not be the system's RCT or put together in a way that the medical establishment would qualify it as anything correct. But yeah, the stories that we've been able to collect with this documentary are just, they're next level, yours included. So it's going to be tough trying to figure out exactly who to put in the actual documentary and who not, because we've interviewed over 40 people. Obviously, we can't have 40 interviews in a documentary, but bits and pieces here that help support some of the main characters, and then the series afterwards. So I know I'm kind of all over the map with that, probably just because I'm excited. So.
Yeah, to be clear, the documentary is called Healing Humanity, and they're going to do the initial documentary following carnivores who are carnivore over a year's time or more, and follow their journey. And then that's why it's taking a long time to produce, plus they're doing it to Netflix standards, so it's going to be on Netflix. And the other thing is that, and they have raised money for this documentary, so they have the money and to get the equipment and all of that stuff, and be able to do it to the production standards and hire the people they need to hire. So all of the money that is donated to the Healing Humanity site is goes to none of it goes to Carrie or Adam, I don't think. Anyway, as far as I know, that all donated. I know it is to Carrie Mann. I know he's not taking a cut. Anyways, it's all going to the documentary. It's pretty amazing. So, and they've raised a lot of money because people believe in it. Those who are carnivore, it's done a lot for people to heal, and people want to give back, and they want other people to know about the documentary. So that's what's happening with that. It should be released next year.
That's great. It's an incredible project. You guys have got your hands full. I'm amazed at your schedule. When you were really flexible with this podcast, I was like, no way, how have you got any time? Because you pretty much came back from Australia and then back in the States, then your UK, and now you've got one in Arizona. It's coming up. Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for anybody watching, we're going to start doing meetups, basically globally. We had one in London that you were a part of, which was freaking awesome. And then we had one in Australia that we were invited to go speak at for the documentary itself. But these past few meetups that we've had, that we've actually run, Carrie has been inspired to do many, many more of these. So it's only prudent of us to do more of these, to meet more people, to help spread the message of the documentary itself, and to amplify these voices that are in the community and get these stories out to help inspire hope for others that they can themselves also make this change and improve themselves. The film is roughly 1.3 million. That's without marketing and distribution. So we have a lot of meetups planned.
And they're great. They're great. They're unforgettable. I think they're really special experiences, because a lot of the time it's become a bit of a cliche, but we are ostracized in many ways, and if I think about just my position here, I'm carnivore, my mum's carnivore, my brother's carnivore, Lucy's kind of loose keto, Sky, does her best. But really, I don't know anybody. We can't get a group of us together and eat. It was a little bit like that over Christmas, and obviously when we met you guys and we all sat around the table, I've had maybe 2 or 3 of those experiences over the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
And so that's why I think it's really important to just bring people together. You only feel strong for doing it. You certainly don't regret
person, right? Like, you have to be able to see the end now. So just try not to focus on so much of the issues and problems that you have now. Just try to envision yourself as a happy and healthy person with no issues whatsoever. So that's first and foremost. You know, so you have to set the tone and not focus on the issues and problems, because I feel like you may exacerbate that or perpetuate some of that moving forward. So
yeah, as I often say, you need to know your why. You really do need to know your why. You have to have a strong why. And you need to keep that in your mindset, because otherwise you'll just fall off and eat whatever the crap you want. But then your health will plummet and go downhill. So stay the course.
So that should help to make things a little bit easier. And then obviously you want to change your diet, you know, and that's going to help make a profound impact and allow your body to do what it does best, which is live. Your body wants to live. So feed it the proper fuels. The foods that I was consuming was fat. So fat is extremely, extremely important. Try not to overdo it on the protein. There is a point where humans can actually have too much protein. So just be careful there. You want to make sure that you're eating the fattiest cuts of meat that you possibly can. And if you don't have access to fatty meats, go to the butcher and ask for beef fat trimmings, sue it. And a lot of times these butchers, they throw this stuff away. Nobody wants it. So sometimes they'll give it to you for free. And at least here in the States, it's roughly $2 a pound. So that's super, super cheap. Sometimes I'll just cut it up into chunks, put it in the freezer, small enough chunks that I can just pop it in my mouth and swallow it whole. That way I don't have to chew it. You know, I don't have to get the texture of, the fat on my teeth or anything like that. Or you just throw it in the air fryer and fry it up and get a little crispy and crackly on the outside. And it's like carnivore popcorn.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that
No. Shoot. Stop it. Come on. Come on. Okay. I didn't realize I was unmuted. So we had technical difficulties. My mouse died for some reason. I have fresh batteries in it, but it stopped working. My iMac, my mouse is battery and Bluetooth. And so if the battery goes down and the Bluetooth goes down, I'm toast, man. Anyway, let me go to the next testimony, and I'll stay on for another 8 minutes, and then we'll do once a week, we'll do testimony night and have video testimony sharing and interactions. And hopefully we'll get some people on here watching. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
This video may or may not apply to most of you, but there's something that I have realized. We are one diagnosis, one surgery complication, one accident, one anything away from our lives completely changing. In my case, I am, of course, you know about the cancer diagnosis. I had my lymph nodes removed on Friday. It was supposed to be a 3-hour total in and out outpatient surgery. I was supposed to come home on Friday and have fun and, well, maybe not have fun, but relax, recoup, recover, resume normal life when I could, that kind of thing. But we all know that I cannot take the easy way, and that is not what happened. So I did have my surgery. That part is fine. I should have known that something was going to happen before the surgery because when they did that, they did like the quick blood test, right? First of all, they did the pregnancy test. Surprise, not pregnant, but didn't think I was, so that was not, like if I had been pregnant, that would have been a surprise. Okay, just saying. So wasn't worried about that. When they did the blood work to pull like potassium and I think magnesium and
Okay, this is another one that I haven't previewed, so I'm not really sure if she goes strict or is going strict. Anyway, it sounds like she's had treatments and had lymph nodes removed and stuff like that. So I'm going to have to review this one first before we do it.
So once I came into that new way of thinking, I felt so free and so good, and I didn't want to have this chemotherapy. And it just goes to show you, Dave, that the tumours themselves don't seem to be fully explain the disease. So,
Stephanie, how did you find Carnivore?
Hi, Dave. Yeah, I've thought a lot about this question because, as I was saying just now, I'm an avid listener, and like many others of your listeners, I listen nearly every single day to the interviews, and many I've listened to several times, and they've really helped me. So it's lovely to be here and share my story, and hopefully it's going to help some people as well. So how I found Carnivore.
So I left Dave's channel in the, you can actually just click on it and go to his channel. And do listen to his videos because there's a lot more testimonies where this came from and a lot more different healing that people have obtained through Carnivore. And I'll do like a special video where I edit and really, compress testimonies together and share a bunch so that, we can see it's powerful.
Like many on YouTube, and I have been searching, as so many of us have, for something that's going to solve the health issues that we have for decades. And I've tried many things, but I looked this up before coming on. It was Sunday, the 7th of May, 2023, and I had just started this what they call it, weights routine, and it was a very simple one because all of the ones that you see sound too complicated. Chest one day, legs the next day, this, that, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted something simple where I know what I'm doing when I go there. And I found this routine, it was called 10X, and it had about 6 exercises, and you did about 10 or 12 routines. The original genesis of this started in the 60s, where they found if you do an exercise to failure, you only need to do one round of it. And you can really get quite good results with this. So I was looking at various videos to do with this, older female bodybuilders and things like that. And I came across Lisa D, who's not usually a carnivore video person. She is more of a lifestyle and things like that. Anyway, the video was called 3 Years of Carnivore Diet, My Unbelievable Personal Success. Now, I'd never heard of carnivore diet. So I watched this video literally agog. But as she was speaking, it just totally made sense. And I realized,
okay, we're going to end it there just because it's been 2 hours and It's too bad that there weren't people chatting in the chat and stuff like that. I like it when it's more interactive. But let's see, when am I coming on again? Personally, I love the testimonial. And I'll have to plan this out more and pull bits and pieces of different testimonies and edit it better. But I'll get that done. But I think it's kind of fun to listen to these and have reaction. What are you moaning about? He's dreaming. He's chasing rabbits or something. Anyway, guys, have a good one. Please like and subscribe. Hopefully people come and watch the replay. And tomorrow I have physical therapy. I think what I'll do is I'll come in. I have physical therapy at 9, and I'll come in and give you a report about physical therapy and the exercises I'm going to be doing to help my hip. We'll do that tomorrow. So it should be somewhere around noon or 1 o'clock Pacific that I come in. We'll see if, something derails it, then I'll be on later in the afternoon or early evening. Should be fine. And I wish I had horseback riding tomorrow, but we don't start again. We've had a long break, which is really a bummer. Plus I was at my daughter since the 29th of November, so I really had a long break. I think I had one lesson in between, or two, but and then we had a break until through Christmas and then New Year's and I didn't realize we weren't going back Tuesday. Oh, I want to be riding horses, and we'll do some more horsey stuff. It's a good thing I turned my do not disturb on temporarily. I learned how to do that. I'm going to do that every time I do a live, because otherwise my notifications for Chrome come up over the top and it's annoying. Be so distracting. But anyways, hopefully my chat didn't break because nobody was in here, so that's a bummer. But anyway, let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you liked it, and we'll do more of these, and I'll find some interesting testimonials. There's some really good ones out there. Look at Dave's channel. Look at the links in my description, and also we'll go over my own testimonial of Carnivore All Watch, and of course I've seen it before. It's me, and yeah, so I'll share the link for my testimonial, and I'll put it in the show notes of this video too. Bye.